All right, everybody. This is episode 62 of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. We appreciate everybody that listens to our podcast. It's been fun doing this for 62 episodes, Wayne. We've
Yeah.
had a great time. This week we are going to talk about probably what's become somewhat of a controversial topic, I would say, would be cop films.
Yep.
Obviously, everybody knows why. We're not going to get into a lot of those details. And if you know us, you know where we stand with all that stuff. And we don't need to make this political. We're just going to get a lot of these movies deal with corrupt cops actually in any way. So
Yeah.
some of them don't, but some of them do.
Well, that's the storyline too. You
Mhm.
get the honest ones that do great for the community and go outside go above and beyond. They don't get the recognition they often deserve.
Yes.
It's the ones that unfortunately get mixed up in bad things or just are generally making poor decisions. That's the ones that really get the headlines.
Yes, exactly. All right, so we're going to start off this week with one of probably my favorite cop films, I think, of all time, and that is Copland. A movie that when it came out in 1997 didn't get nearly the love that it deserves. I think it's become more of a hit in years past, since 1997 Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
I know Sylvester Stallone, he cites it as a movie that kind of stalled his career for a little bit, and that's if you remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, he did quite a few straight-to-home video releases. So after Copland, which was in theaters, which is a shame because, in my opinion, Copland is fantastic. It's one of his best performances. It has an amazing cast to it. If you like westerns, it's basically a western but a cop movie. James Mangold, who would go on to do 3:10 to Yuma and Logan, and he's doing the new Indiana Jones movie, and he did the race car one with Matt Damon and Ford versus Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
He is a great director, and I think this is an early work of his that was just kind of overlooked a little bit.
For me, it was just crazy to see Sylvester Stallone look as like a normal dude because when you think of like Stallone, I think of Rocky and Cobra and Rambo, or
Tango and Cash,
Tango and Cash, just ripped, just built like an Adonis, a Greek god.
Yes.
And then he's just like, oh, he's fat. He
got,
looks like a normal guy.
Yes, he does. So let me go through this cast list before I get into the plot here. Huge cast list, though. As we said, Sylvester Stallone is the sheriff of Copland. We'll get into why it's called that in a minute. Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Peter Berg, Janine Garofalo, Robert Patrick, Michael Rappaport, Annabelle Sciorra, Noah Emmerich, Kathy Moriarty, Frank Vincent, John Spencer, Malik Yoba, Edie Falco is in it as well, Method Man, Deborah Harry, Paul Corderone, Paul Herman. There's so many. Tony Sirico, I believe.
Paulie Walnuts, yes, sir.
Yep. There's so many actors and just great character actors in this movie that it's really, again, I'm surprised it was so overlooked when it came out. I remember seeing it in theaters and loving it. Thinking it was fantastic and just didn't understand why people didn't like it as much as I did. The plot settles around a small town in New Jersey of New York cops, so New York's finest.
Mm-hmm.
As you were talking earlier, Wayne, the good ones. Well, these guys pretend to be the good ones, so they think they deserve to do whatever they want and have this whole little slice of heaven that they call home that is looked over by the sheriff, played by Sylvester Stallone, and he's basically told, not paid off or anything, but told to look the other way. And some things happen. Murray Superboy Babich, played by Michael Rappaport, is Super Cop, and he just saved like some people from a fire or something like that, and so he's all in the headlines and stuff. And this is where this movie relates to today. He's driving home from a party for celebrating him, and there are two African American gentlemen. They look to probably be inebriated of some kind, and they're pretending to point something at the police, and is not a gun, but he pops his tire at that same time, so he thinks he's being shot at. So he shoots and he kills these two unarmed black men. And it turns into this whole thing, obviously, right at the scene where his uncle shows up, played by Harvey Keitel. They're trying to kind of cover it up. What was going on? You thought you were in distress. Saying these are nobodies, no one's going to care, that kind of rhetoric and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They try to plant a gun. That doesn't go their way. That's Robert Patrick's character. So then they make it look like Murray committed suicide and jumps off the bridge. End of story. Super Cop did something bad, felt bad about it, killed himself. That's not what happened. So it kind of starts to unravel as Sylvester Stallone's character, Freddy, starts to kind of put the pieces together. He sees Murray a couple times and is like, wait a minute, what's going on here? He's kind of slow because he was in an accident when he was younger, which kept him from being an official police officer, which is why he's a local sheriff. He can't hear very well. He hurt himself saving the girl that he loves, played by Annabelle Sciorra, who's married to the douchebag Peter Berg. And it turns into, like I said, like this kind of slow burn Western where you have the internal affairs, Robert De Niro and Malik Yoba, trying to get Freddy to help them and turn on his friends. And there's this great scene that I always love repeating the line, and I don't think most people understand but there's a scene where De Niro's like, I gave you a chance and you blew it! And it's just, I love repeating that line. I don't know why, I just do. And in that scene...
You really got to do the squint, though. You
do. And Freddy leaves and he's upset because he's like, they're not helping me. And what De Niro used it as a ploy because then Freddy's like, well, I'll just do it my damn self. And then De Niro, as he leaves, De Niro's like, I think our case is back on. So, because he could tell that he was, motivated. He got the right motivation out of this guy finally, because he didn't want to step up. He didn't want to hurt his friend's feelings because he wanted to be a cop. He idolized those guys. And so it takes him and drugged out Ray Liotta, who is a cop who accidentally kills his own wife and is addicted. He's like addicted to drugs. He's like burns his house down for insurance purposes, and she's inside, and he doesn't know that she's going to be there.
Oh, so that's nice.
Yeah, so he's not a great guy either, but he is like Freddy's only friend, really, aside from his other sheriffs, played by Janeane Garofalo and Noah, whatever, I said his name earlier, that guy, from Truman Show.
That guy.
But it's such a great slow burn cop western that, I mean, if you haven't seen it, honestly, I've seen this movie probably like 30 times. I love this movie. It's one of those ones we talk about movies we put on before we go to bed. I always put it on before I go to sleep. Just, to me, it's a classic. And I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough because it wasn't a box office success. And that's what Stallone, at that time of his career, that's what Stallone based it on. I think if, like, nominations had come from it, maybe he would look at it a little differently. But I think he feels like it kind of tanked his career at that moment. And it's a shame because, like I said, in my opinion, I think it's his best performance to date. So.
Gotcha.
All right. So we're going to go on to one way, and I know that you love as much as I do. It's probably one of my other top 3 cop films, End of Watch.
Yes.
So End of Watch from David Ayer, who's the writer of Training Day, Harsh Times, The Unfortunate Suicide Squad, the original, and a lot of other cop movies. That's kind of one of his domains. He did this movie called End of Watch.
Yes.
And it stars probably, funny, my son, we were having a discussion yesterday. He was like, who's your favorite actor? And I was like, it's something that's changed over time.
That's an impossible question for me to answer. Like, pick a genre.
Right, exactly.
Pick a decade.
Exactly. And that's, my opinion, like, they're unfortunate. There are some people that used to be my favorite actors that are now known for doing bad things. So I can't say them anymore. But I said Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal, to me, ever since he started doing the movies he's wanted to do, has given fantastic performances. Even in movies that don't require it, he goes all in no matter what. And I think that's something to be admired when you're looking at an actor. And Gyllenhaal, to me, has proven to be one of those type of actors. So him in End of Watch, along with Michael Pena.
Yeah, we need to definitely do a deep dive on Jake Gyllenhaal. Because like you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, he was in Brokeback, he did a couple other things. And I really liked Jarhead, which I love, Jarhead. And kind of attribute that character to this one that he plays.
Of course.
In a sense, just an action. And
yeah.
I'm going to use it in an effed up sense because, you can relate a lot to these two characters. But yeah. Just forget about all the other stuff he was in when he was young. I mean...
Yep. Day After Tomorrow, Donnie Darko. He was a different...
I think his first role was... what's the cowboy one with Billy Crystal?
City Slickers.
City Slickers,
yes.
Yeah. Yep. As a child, it was like, oh my God, that's him!
His parents were in the business, so him and his sister got started young. But yeah, that was...
we'll definitely need to do a deep dive. Sorry for diverting like I normally do, but hey, here we go.
No, we will for sure. Like I said, at this moment in time, I think I would say he is my favorite actor, just because of the work that he does and the performances that he gives time and time again.
And again, not to derail him, what is the movie where he and Natalie Portman have an affair and Tobey Maguire is the husband that comes back?
Oh, Brothers.
Is it
yeah.
Brothers.
Yep, that's a remake of like a Swedish film or Danish film. Gotcha. I don't remember.
Underrated as well.
I know they're both really good at that.
Let's talk about End of Watch like you tried to 5 minutes ago.
All right, so as I said, directed by David Ayer, Gyllenhaal, Pena, also has Anna Kendrick, Natalie Martinez, America Ferrara, Frank Grillo, David Harbour, sorry. I call him Dave. We're good friends. Let's see. Cody Horn as well.
Why are you calling him? Just call him Hopper.
Hop, really. I mean, we've known each other a long time. Cody Horn and Christy Wu played two other cops. Cody Horn, people may know her from Magic Mike. She was in the first one as the girl that he crushes on. This movie is intense, man. Yeah. It's just so people are aware, it's basically the closest you're going to get to like a found footage film of a cop movie, because it's not necessarily found footage, but a lot
of body cam.
All the footage is body cam footage, basically, and
you might want to, if you got a motion sickness problem.
Yeah, that's true. There is a lot of that.
You got to take the Dramamine
before you start.
I'm dead serious. I'm not making a joke.
Warning, take Dramamine before watching End of Watch. And he's not wrong. It is very shaky cam on purpose. That's the intention, is to kind of put you in these guys' shoes. Now, these two cops, like I said, a lot of the cop movies are dirty cop movies. This one is not.
Nope.
These are good dudes. They stress that. And one of them is a little bit of a wild card, which is Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm.
And you get Pena, who's more the kind of laid back one, like, hey man, let's make him back alive every night. Where, and it's they get involved in this shootout in the middle of like a alleyway, basically, and it involves everybody like kind of coming to try to help them, but it's mainly about these two cops.
Right.
And it's intense, it's dramatic, it's sad, it's emotional. Like, I mean, the whole thing is just it's a roller coaster ride from start to finish, and it one of those movies that kicks off right from the beginning, doesn't give you a lot of time to kind of warm up to it.
And without giving it away, nice little twist at the end,
yes,
where it kind of leads you down one path, and then it turns out you just kind of go, oh.
Yeah, it really, it's one of those movies that it's definitely going to hit you, I think, but it's also going to like entertain the hell out of you. I mean, it's one entertaining flick.
Definitely not a children's movie, because every second sentence has fuck or shit even worse than that. I'll let you use your imagination.
I would say probably David Ayer's best film. I mean, he's done some other ones. Like I said, he wrote Training Day. He did not direct Training Day.
Another fantastic cop film in and of itself.
Which we have up here, but we're not going to talk about as much because we already talked about that one on the Denzel episode.
Because King Kong ain't got stuff on me.
You just said fucking shit. And you're gonna blur out the other line.
No, man, we got sponsors eventually. It's like the movie ratings. You can't say fuck more than once and still have PG-13.
We've said it a lot already in this first.
Fuck, fuckity, fuck, fuck, fuck.
It's good they gotta stop bleeping though. I would hate you for that. Dogs will be howling everywhere.
We're off the rails already.
We are. This is going south. All right, let's bring it back. This is another one that I really, really loved, Wayne, and this is French Connection, starring Gene Hackman, one of the greats.
Hey, none of that now. We're calling that movie Freedom Connection, son.
Freedom Connection.
Tell you what, Murphy.
French Connection is just one of those movies. I've only seen it like a couple times, but it just sticks with you, especially as a cop film. It's Timber! Damn it, blood work. Seriously, Clint Eastwood.
It's just, Clint
for those
will not be denied his stardom.
For those listening, Clint Eastwood's blood work knocked over End of Watch. That son of a bitch.
It's kind of, whatchamacallit, not serendipitous, but
emblematic of who he is.
Well, and just the ending of that movie.
Oh, that's true, too. That's true. I didn't put out a Dirty Harry movie. Dirty Harry's are good movies, too. Watch those. All right. So French Connection, directed by William Friedkin, written by Ernest Tidyman. It's based on Robin Moore's 1969 book of the same name. It tells the story of NYPD detectives Jimmy Popeye Doyle and Buddy Cloudy Russo, whose real-life counterparts were narcotics detectives Eddie Egan and Sonny Grosso, in pursuit of wealthy French heroin smuggler Alain Charnier. The film stars Gene Hackman as Popeye, Roy Scheider as Cloudy, and Fernando Rey as Chenier. Tony LaBianco and Marcel Bosalfi also star. There's the plot. It's these two cops trying to take on this huge drug lord. Mm-hmm. It's got everyone knows this movie. It's got a huge chase scene in it. That's one of the considered one of the best chase scenes in a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, it's right up there with Bullet.
Bullet. I think like the original Italian Job and stuff like that.
I'd throw Gone in 60 Seconds in there just because that's a really cool chase scene. Yeah, a little bit more. I don't know. It's a chase scene. It's good, but
more modern.
It's like bottom of the list, but still up there. Why am I talking like this? I don't know.
But yes, to me, it's a fantastic movie, and I haven't seen it in a while, so I won't say it. Have you seen this one, Wayne?
It's been 20 years.
Okay, yeah, it's a great flick. I really recommend it. Here's another one over here. There's so many cop movies to mention that you're probably going to be like, why are they talking about this one or that one? And there's probably ones that I'm going to forget, too. I know a lot of movies, people. There's a lot of stuff gets in this brain, and some of it stays, some of it doesn't. There's good Arnold ones. There's good Stallone ones. There's good Kurt Russell cop movies. Here's another one that was kind of when I first saw it, I didn't really know anything about it. It's called To Live and Die in L.A. It stars Chicago's own William Peterson. Credited down here is William L. Peterson. Willem Dafoe, John Rankow. Everybody would remember him from Mad About You.
Yeah.
Deborah Fuhrer, John Turturro, Dean Stockwell, someone else's name who I can't really read. And it's directed, another one, by William Friedkin. So, William Friedkin, here we got two movies up here. He liked cop movies. To Live and Die in L.A. is two cops who, one of them's kind of like, William Peterson's cop is pretty much a dirty cop. But he still likes to bring down bad guys. So, like, that's his thing. And John Rankow's partner is, trying to kind of keep him in line as they chase Willem Dafoe, who's like this just terrible, no-nonsense villain who's going to kill whoever he wants just because he's kind of insane.
Yep.
And as Willem Dafoe does. It's a great movie. Visually, it looks stunning. I want to get, I think there's like a cooler Blu-ray version or a newer Blu-ray version of it. I'd like to get that because, as you can see, I own the old DVD version. But it's another one of those movies I don't think a lot of people know about. So if you haven't seen To Live and Die in LA, I really recommend watching that one. Mm-hmm. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. I wanted to just talk about, I know I've talked about this movie before, but 1986 is Running Scared.
Yes.
Gregory Hines, Billy Crystal. You think those two guys, you think, oh, this is going to be hilarious. Yeah. No, dead serious, lots of action. Just a little rundown synopsis real quick here. Two streetwise Chicago cops, obviously I love this movie because of that, have to shake off some rust after returning from Key West. A vacation to pursue a drug dealer who nearly killed them. Basically, synopsis of the story. Running and gunning, trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, 1986, pick it up. It's dated, obviously, but especially if you're from the Chicagoland area or, you've been there, it's cool. Hey, look at it. I've been there.
That's what's fun with Chicago movies when we were Rebecca watching.
Lots of Chicago sports team attire. I know.
Yes.
The Cubs are well represented.
Yes,
I think I saw a Walter Payton jersey in there, at least one scene. So
yeah, it's a great movie. There's also if you're confused, there's another movie called Running Scared with Paul Walker, which is also a cop movie, which is also really good and completely different. Not a remake, just the same name.
2006 on that one.
2005 and 2006, really good.
Yeah.
So as we talked about, Clint Eastwood was knocking over the other movies. Bloodwork, like everyone knows his other movies, Dirty Harry, all his westerns and stuff, Unforgiven. His newer, $1 Million Baby, Mystic River, which just watching again, Mystic River is amazing. One of probably the best movies in the last 20 years, and people don't talk about it enough.
I really enjoyed The Mule in 2018.
So I haven't watched that one yet. So
it's slow, but it's got a nice. I don't know. I enjoyed it.
We'll be reviewing his new one coming up in a couple weeks. But Bloodwork is this kind of like, I want to say little known because it's Clint Eastwood, but it doesn't really, people don't talk about it a lot. He plays a former cop who is trying to hunt down a serial killer that's kind of like hit in his area where he lives like on a boat now and like on the water or whatever, obviously where you live in boats.
Not always. Sometimes they're in the middle of a parking lot.
That's true, especially in Florida. Jeff Daniels plays his neighbor, who's kind of like his driver, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of twists and turns. He's trying to help this woman who he kind of starts a romantic relationship with find the murderer of, I said that weird, murderer of her, I believe of her sister. And he gets obviously very involved. He starts working with the police on it. They kind of give him a little leeway, to help them. But it's directed by Clint Eastwood, and I've always really liked it. It's just always been a really good cop movie to me. Even though, like I said, he's technically not a cop, but it still plays out like a cop movie. Obviously, with him, you could go watch Dirty Harry or anything like that. But it's a great little film, I'd say. This one, Wayne, I don't know if you saw this one. Richard Gere, Don Cheadle, Ethan Hawke, and Wesley Snipes. Directed by Antoine Fuqua, who did Training Day.
What's the name of it?
I should say the name. Brooklyn's Finest. Because it's not called Richard Gere, Don Cheadle, Ethan Hawke, and Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, I would go see that if that was the title.
That was the title.
Just for the possibility of seeing a hamster.
Yes.
Or a gerbil.
Mm-hmm. He believes Sylvester Stallone started that rumor, by the way.
Right.
When Stallone fired him from Lords of Flatbush. So Fuqua directed this movie, another cop movie. It is like 3 stories in one. You have Don Cheadle, Richard Gere, and Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke plays a dirty cop. Richard Gere plays a cop who seeks out dirty cops, and Don Cheadle is an undercover cop. They all kind of come to a head at some point. It has a great supporting cast. Like I said, Wesley Snipes is in it. I believe it was his last released movie before he went to jail for his tax evasion. And it is just a really good cop drama. Another one that kind of just came and went. That's kind of the theme of the cop movies today. If you're watching this, with the exception of like French Connection, because that was a huge freaking movie at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who else is in it. Will Patton, Lily Taylor, Brian F. O'Brien, Shannon Keane, Ellen Barkin. I know Vincent D'Onofrio also has a role in it as well. It came out at a time where Vincent D'Onofrio had a role in 2 movies with Ethan Hawke, where Ethan Hawke played a cop. Where I believe Vincent D'Onofrio in both movies does not last very long.
Right.
So, but yeah, this one it's really good, man. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. If you like cop movies, like this is one. Again, it shows you kind of all sides. You get the internal affairs cop, the dirty cop, and then the undercover cop. So it's like everything all at once. It's really well done. Fuqua is, in my opinion, a really good director. He does a lot of movies, so some of his stuff is not great. Some of it is really good. Mm-hmm. It just depends. But yeah, it definitely something worth checking out, I think. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? I think that's it. We got Pride and Glory back here. Decent one with Ed Norton and Colin Farrell. And you got, of course, Serpico with Al Pacino, which another underrated 70s cop film, I think. He plays a real character who turned rat against his own people, against the police.
Yeah. I don't know if we could call it a rat if it's well-deserved.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what they would call. But yeah, I mean, he did something very brave, and unfortunately he paid with his life for it, but he was one of the kind of first to kind of speak out against police corruption within his own business. So it's a very kind of important movie, I guess I would say. It's not like action-packed, really. It's more of a drama for sure. But definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it. Wayne, were there any other ones you wanted to talk about today?
I really want to focus on what we did here. Because we could talk about, the Dirty Harrys, the iconic films. I want to keep it more like ones that not as well known. Like you bring up a name, like you'll bring up Pride and Glory, and like, what? What's that about?
Right, exactly. The idea
is that a sports football movie?
Kind of to shine a light on movies that just aren't as well known,
right?
And that was kind of my goal here. At some point coming up, we will be talking about comedic cop films. We haven't settled on a date on that one yet, but we will have that conversation.
Whole different genre. I think we're going to see a lot of Mark Wahlberg. I don't know why, but I feel that coming on strong.
One of my favorites, by the way.
Yes, indeed.
Narc is another good one. Another recommendation. Narc is really good from what's his name? Filmmaker guy.
Now that immediately makes me think of the arcade Nintendo
There's an
game.
Arcade video game, yeah.
That was damn near impossible to beat in the arcade or even on the NES.
Directed by Joe Carnahan. That was like his first big movie. Mm-hmm. Great cast: Jason Patric, Ray Liotta, Chi McBride, Busta Rhymes. That's about it. But it was very much an indie film, kind of almost similar to End of Watch and how it was shot, but it was not through like police, cams. But it was shot very, very much like that. It's such a really, really, really cool movie. So if you haven't seen that one.
I'm thinking about, I was debating about bringing it up in my head. I'm going to bring it up really quickly. Just Shaft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously. The whole franchise, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Shaft, I still haven't watched the newest one, but the Samuel L. Jackson one from 2000 and the original ones.
The TV show.
With Richard Roundtree. No, it was a movie.
It was a movie, okay.
Yeah, it was like 4 movies, so 3 or 4 movies. And now we have the 2. And what's cool about all the Shaft movies, they all take place in the same universe. So they have Richard Roundtree plays his character from the original movies, but he's like Shaft's uncle or something like that. And then Samuel L. Jackson in the newest one, which I own but I've yet to watch, plays has a son who he's trying to like be his dad basically. In a modern world, 20 years after the original movie or whatever it was.
Yep.
The Samuel L. Jackson Shaft is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I love. I remember.
Boy, Christian Bale is fun to hate in that movie.
Oh God, he's fun to hate around that time. He was making movies. He really he gives an American Psycho type performance. As being a
he
complete
plays an
racist.
Entitled American better than anybody than most entitled Americans.
And he's not from America, so that should tell you something. It's a great performance in like an action movie. Like it's one of those weird, like, oh, this is like a weird, neat performance in this type of movie.
Busta Rhymes is fantastic in it.
Busta Rhymes is good as the driver. Mekhi Phifer plays Christian Bale's victim earlier in the movie. Lots of great like actors kind of come walking in screen and stuff that you're like, oh, I know that guy. I know Lee Turgidson from Oz is in it for a split second.
Yeah.
It's just such a fun movie. One of the fun plot points of it too is I remember when I saw it in theaters and a friend, she was like, he like never gets hurt, and I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Like everybody, he's cool.
That's because he's Shaft.
Exactly. So like, because when Busta Rhymes rolls,
you're damn right. I set it up on the T for him and he missed.
Sorry.
Okay.
I was in the mode, man. So, because like at the end of the movie, there's like this big car accident where they all flip and everybody's hurt except for Shaft. He gets out of the car unscathed because he's Shaft and he's cool and he can't get hurt. That's the whole like point of being Shaft. Is like nothing hurts you.
He's a complicated man.
Yes, and I also have to mention Jeffrey Wright as Peoples Hernandez, the other villain in the movie. Fantastic. Made me a fan for life after I saw him in that movie.
When he's sitting there talking shit to Christian Bale's character. Wow, brain cramp right there. He's on the crapper, and he just stops to do what he does. Yep. Like, wow. I mean, I don't know. Just unsettling and
great performance
at the same time.
Yeah. All right. So that's our cop movies. I mean, I'm sure we're forgetting some. We always do. There's plenty out there. Just search them and or look behind me. I'm sure there's some out here that I missed.
I'm looking to choose my rentals from this week.
Right. The Gauntlet's another good one. It's a Clint Eastwood. It's similar to another movie. I have 16 Blocks, which is over here somewhere.
The Die Hard franchise.
Of course, Die Hard.
But we've talked about that ad nauseum.
Lethal Weapon, same thing. Obviously, those are great cop movies, but we spent time on those.
We don't want to keep talking about the same ones. We want to keep it fresh.
Exactly. All right, so now we're moving on to our reviews
of the week.
Of the week. We've done better with that. That's okay. All right, so this week we've got one new movie and then one old movie. Mm-hmm. We're going to start with the new one, and that is called Worth. And this is a movie.
Wow, gosh. Yeah, you want to talk about derailing my afternoon, evening. And not in a bad way. It's just this movie affects you in such a way. Well, it affected me in such a way.
I agree. Yeah, it's a very affecting film. We'll go over it real quick here and give you some of the plot points. All right, so it is directed by Sarah Colangelo, written by Max Borenstein, starring Michael Keaton, Stanley Tucci, Amy Ryan, Tate Donovan, Laura Benanti, I knew I recognized her, Shinori Ramanathan, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, I apologize. It is basically... And I thought it took place years after 9/11, so I didn't expect it to be as like, hey, remember 9/11? Mm-hmm. And so it's a movie about 9/11. and about post 9/11, but not like the next day, basically.
Victims Compensation Fund.
It's the Victims Compensation Fund, and it's how it got started. And Michael Keaton plays a lawyer who, out of the goodness of his heart at first, like decided to take this thing on because he knew someone was going to have to do it, and he didn't want to charge for it, so he does it pro bono to set up. He wants to set up this fund for the government, for George W. Bush and his cabinet.
Right.
Even though he's a Democrat, but in his mind, he's like, that's why it's a great thing. It's like, you guys could blame me if it goes wrong, and I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, so fine.
And right off the bat, I just want to talk about how it goes into how Congress rewrote laws so that the airlines couldn't have been held accountable for not.
That's the very first thing it brings up, like after the event, after 9/11 happens. It's him and a bunch of other lawyers sitting in a room talking about how they make a law to stop the airlines from being sued because of what happened on 9/11.
And we talked about not being political at the top of our show, and we're not saying red or blue. This was everybody.
This was everybody.
The corporations are unfortunately favored.
Yes.
And that's the end of it.
Rich people. I mean, it shows you, and throughout the movie, it tells you rich people run the country and the world. And, Tate Donovan's character, who I think they kind of portray him in the beginning as like a lawyer who's like, I can't believe that we're even having this conversation. This is ridiculous. However, he has rich and wealthy clients. So throughout the movie, he's trying to work for those rich and wealthy clients who lost loved ones in 9/11.
Right.
And they want to be treated better because guess what? They're rich and wealthy.
Hence worth. What is a human life?
That's what it starts with. Michael Keaton's teaching a class pre 9/11 about what a life is worth. And you meet one of the other characters in the movie as well. Priya Kundi is her name in the movie. Shinori Ramanathan. I'm going to stop saying it because I'm butchering it. She's one of his students, and then she ends up. It's a really great story for her character. She is one of. She was supposed to start working in a firm that worked in one of the buildings in 9/11, and obviously that happened, and she needed a job, and she heard they were doing this at his office, so she wanted to help. No one, it really wasn't, you weren't dealing with people who were happy, obviously. No one was going to end up being happy in the end because of what happened, obviously. And there's a great line from Michael Keaton's character's wife where he said something like, she's like, I don't want you to worry about winning. He's like, oh, well, there not going to be any winners. And she goes, that's my concern.
Right.
Like, because it's going to take everybody down with it. And his initial reaction is to
take the humanity out of it, basically. He's just like, you know what?
Treat them like numbers.
Follow
basically.
the formula.
Follow the formula. Not look at them as people necessarily because it's easier law-wise to do that and to write a bill like that without having to look people in the face.
The value of the asset, if you will.
Exactly. And he decided to do it that way. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, including Stanley Tucci's character, who's the husband of one of the victims. And they...
From the get-go, though, Stanley Tucci just showing the amazing poise that his character has.
Yeah.
Stands up and defends him during the initial information speaking series where the crowd is just turning on Michael Keaton's character.
Yes.
And he stands up and is like, hey, it's not his fault. He didn't cause this.
Let's hear him out.
Speaking for the government.
Let's hear him out. And then it's great because then he thanks him at the end of that. He goes, oh, I think everything you're doing is wrong and terrible, and this is really bad idea. And he's like, oh, I thought you were like a fan of mine, like you were going to help me.
But there's got to be 3 or 4 different scenes with Stanley Tucci and Michael Keaton that are just amazing. They're both so fantastic in this movie, and
they do a really good job.
The feels they make you feel, it's just
wow. Yeah. Everyone is in top form. Amy Ryan does a really good job as she's Michael Keaton's law partner. It just is one of those movies. It's hard to watch at times because it is very sad. You get to hear a lot of very personal stories of stuff that happened on 9/11. I'm assuming they're taking from real life. I didn't go look them up and see.
Right.
But it is one of those movies. I mean, the 20-year anniversary is coming up next weekend. It'll be a couple days after this episode airs, I think the day after actually this episode debuts will be the anniversary. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, and I'm sure everyone's seen there's a bunch of Netflix specials and stuff. having this movie come out now, I think, is important because it kind of reminds us of what the aftermath should have been about and what it really was about, which was spending money and making sure that rich people weren't being sued. That was kind of how the government took it. Now, while publicly maybe that all wasn't as it seemed, that's what happened. And this is a story, I think, about a couple people trying to do good by those people, by the people that were affected.
Well, they even touch on, the first responders that didn't start getting sick until months and years after that. It's like, well, that's not what this bill is about, or that's not what this deal is about.
They had to do a cutoff, which and Jon Stewart is a big fan. He's been talking about that first responders bill for a long time, and they try to crush that, and it keeps coming back, thankfully.
It just got passed, in 2019, right?
Again, yeah, because they were going to get rid of it again or whatever. They want to stop putting money into it, but he's trying to explain to people, like, these people still have problems, and they're going to have these problems until they die. And so a lot of those people were left off. You had, in Virginia, they'd make a big deal about it too, is that partners weren't a thing. So even if it was a male-female partner, it didn't matter. If you weren't married, you couldn't get money from what happened. There was a homosexual couple who they were going to get married about 2 weeks after 9/11 happened. And he lost his boyfriend on the flight, and his boyfriend's parents did not want to believe that their son was gay. And so, but what it talks about is how because of him and his fight, he made it so that New Yorkers could get that. The partners could get that. So even though he couldn't help himself, he helped other people. So there's a lot of little stories like that are in that movie that really, hit close and really emotional stuff. It's a really well done film. Yes, there are scenes that are going to make you emotional. I mean, they do show footage of 9/11, buildings falling, people running, first responders responding. I mean, it's crazy, and I didn't expect to see that in this movie. Like I said, I thought it was mostly post, but it is a really good movie, and I think well worth your time.
Yeah. There was the one single mother who lost her husband and is battling cancer. It's like, I may not be alive by the time you guys settle this thing. Is there anything you can do for me now? No, I'm sorry, there's not. It's like
they were trying not to make any
concessions. They actually, I believe they could, but they just chose not to.
They chose because they didn't want to favor anybody, because they were of the mind if they did it for one person, then other people would come.
As hard as it is to say, I understand that. But
of course,
God, it still sucks to.
It's not understand that. Yeah. Well, and that was what's great about Stanley Tucci's character was like, Michael Keaton's like, well, we can't do that because it wouldn't be fair, and Stanley's like, but why? Like, why not? Like almost like a child, but why? Why can't you do it? Just do it. And so it kind of led Michael Keaton's character to kind of just go, fuck it, and just start doing it. Yeah. And that really, I think, helped turn it around, because they needed a certain percentage for it to pass at the House level in order for them to get the money for it. 80%, yeah.
And I believe 97% was the final number.
Yeah, 95, 97, something like that.
And I look at the Stanley Tucci character, and it's like, I lost my wife. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could ever have the poise to, communicate with the lawyer that is the poster child or the face of those that are trying to screw me over.
Yeah.
Or to besmuttle my late wife's legacy. And this is only 2 years, little over 2 years after the fact that it happened.
Yeah, it ended. Yeah, they had a 2-year deadline, I think is what it was. A little over 2 years. I mean, it's definitely hard to kind of put into words what those people had to have been going through. And, I think this movie tries to sympathize with them as much as it can. And it draws on the idea that it's not about money. It wasn't about how much they were getting. It was about the respect and the dignity that the government was showing for them. And they weren't really showing them much. They were treating it like just they wanted a problem just to go away so that these people wouldn't sue. Mm-hmm. There's also a class thing, too. They do very much. They have a bunch of people who, $10,000 is a lot, too. Well, the minimum they were going to give out was $200,000 per person, per family or whatever.
Yeah.
And the one, they had a group of more, I don't know if poorer, but middle-class people. And they were like, oh, my God, like, that's life-changing money. Of course we'll take that. Yeah. And then you have the rich people who are like, well, that's not enough. I need more.
Of course.
And it just, to see the difference was kind of just crazy. I mean, it's not surprising.
There's the scene where he's in the ledger where the dishwasher would get 300,000, and then the CEO will get 14 million. It's like,
it's a bit of a difference. Just crazy. Really good movie though. Hopefully, Michael Keaton's been trying to get that Oscar, so hopefully this will be one that kind of pushes him over the edge.
Definitely well deserved though.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. Him and Stanley Tucci both do a really good job, and so does Amy Ryan. Definitely well worth your time, I think, if you check it out on Netflix.
Yeah.
So the other one, we're taking a trip back to the 1980s, when before Thanos was all big and purple.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should hopefully know that Thanos was played by Josh Brolin, son of James Brolin.
Also before he found all that drug money in the desert.
Yes, before that too. That did not go very well. So, Thrashin is a movie from 1986, directed by David Winter, starring Josh Brolin, Robert Russler, and Pamela Gidley. It also has, let's see,
Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk
makes an unscripted or uncredited. He is credited as an extra.
Yeah, it's basically a skater at one of the competitions.
I was watching. I'm like, wait a minute, that guy looks familiar, and I had to look. It was the guy in the blue shirt with the pink helmet. That's Tony Hawk. I was like, hey, I was right.
Sherilyn Fenn, one of the because it's one of those movies where there's you have your good skateboarders and then you have your skateboarder gang that it's their territory and you don't mess with them. One of their skateboarders was Tony Alva, who is one of the main guys from Lords of Dogtown. Mm-hmm. They even mentioned Dogtown, like, oh man, you're in Dogtown now when in the movie. So that got me interested because I like that movie a lot and I like that story a lot of the Lords of Dogtown, which happened in the 70s, I think. So to see a movie that's kind of based around that time, and then to look afterwards to research the movie. This movie is very well loved inside the skater universe. Mm-hmm. Catherine Hardwicke, who would go on to direct Lords of Dogtown, is actually in this movie. She introduces the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who are in this movie as themselves. It's such a weird kind of slice of the 80s that I feel like maybe I heard of it, but I guess I really don't know much about it.
I did not hear of it, but I am so happy that I did. Yes. I really, really enjoyed this.
If you like some of the Christian Slater type 80s films or Billie Jean or Pump Up the Volume, this kind of fits into that little niche area of the 80s. It's very punk. It's very skater, which are these are the type of movies I like because I like skateboarding and surfing. I can't do it, and I never would do surfing because I'm scared of sharks. But I like watching movies.
Even the baby ones?
Yep.
Do.
Yes, even Baby Shark. All the movies that have to do with it, Lords of Dogtown, some of the surfing ones, I really like those films, the documentaries even too. And I'm like, man, that's amazing. I could never do it because I'm not brave enough when it comes to surfing, and for skateboarding, I don't have the coordination. And I never did.
And getting hurt just kind of sucks, especially now at middle age.
Those guys were all like, whatever, man, a broken arm, that's cool. I'm still going to get, Josh Brolin's character, my other arm's broken, I'll just use my other arm, it's good. Okay.
Or the pool scene where he thrashes, bro.
Yeah.
And he just rips up his shoulders
yep.
Yeah, I'd be dead for a week. I'm just done.
Yeah, and he's fine the next
Lord.
Sherilyn Fenn is also in this movie. Actually, how this movie started getting cast, and it led the director, David Winters, to never not have control again. When he cast the film, he cast Sherilyn Fenn and her then boyfriend, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was supposed to be Josh Brolin's character.
Corey Webster?
Yep, Corey Webster. But the studio, not a fan at the time. He had only done basically Nightmare on Elm Street. He had yet to do 21 Jump Street. So that they would not let, he could not get him passed. They kept Sherilyn Fenn. She plays the main bad guy's girlfriend. But Johnny Depp was then replaced with Josh Brolin, who I think did a nice job. I mean, he, coming off Goonies, this was his, I think, his next movie or, close to Goonies. And he played the part well. I don't know how much of the actual skateboarding he did, but what he did do, it looked realistic, I think.
Yeah, that's the one thing. You've seen movies from the 80s where you could just definitely tell where the cut is and where the professional stuntman is in there and where versus the actor. It's there were a couple scenes you could definitely tell, but overall, I think they did a really nice job with.
Well, they did a good job of casting. You know that like the daggers were all skateboarders except for the main guy.
Yeah.
The rest of them were all former skateboarders or probably current skateboarders at that time.
You never stop skateboarding.
Yeah, this is true.
Daggers only hang out with daggers. One of the punchlines. The
yes.
gang.
Oh my God! Like it's very much West Side Story at times too. Yeah. Which all those movies seem to like take a key from. But David Winders, he vowed after this movie to never not have control again because he wanted to cast who he wanted to cast and work who he wanted to work with. So that was a big thing for him while making this. Like I said before, it's a well-loved movie within the skate world. It's a cult classic in their world. Came out in '86. I don't know that it doesn't really say that it did very well. There's the jousting scene which I guess they pay homage to that in Jackass, which I didn't know because I'd never seen Thrashing. So I remember from Jackass.
The boxing gloves on chains.
Yes, it was just silly, but fun to watch. Really, just an entertaining movie. Good performance from Josh Brolin. You can kind of see, Goonies was the start of it. You can kind of see him start to grow even in such a movie like this. But yeah, a solid flick, I think, all around.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So
one of those old ones that we watch. It's time now for my horror pick of the week. I'm going to go with Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead. It is directed by special effects wizard Stan Winston. It's one of the very few movies that he directed. It stars Lance Henriksen. Everyone should know him because he's amazing. It is a movie about this man who loses his kid in it was an accident, but these teens were driving around partying and that kind of stuff, and his son dies, and so then he decides that he's going to enact the curse of Pumpkinhead, which basically if you raise Pumpkinhead, he does your bidding, and so he raises Pumpkinhead, which you can see on the front. That's what Pumpkinhead looks like. This is a movie I saw when I probably was too young to watch Pumpkinhead when I watched Pumpkinhead. But me and my buddy Jason, we watched this movie when we were younger. And I just thought it was so cool. It's streaming on Amazon Prime and I think Pluto TV right now. It's great 80s monster flick. Great special effects. Pumpkinhead looks fantastic even for today. It's just a really cool movie. So if you haven't seen Pumpkinhead, it's a little more of a cult. It's definitely a cult hit. It's not, it wasn't super popular, I don't think, when it came out. But, this is a collector's edition Blu-ray, so it's become very popular over time. And I think people really should see it, especially if you're into monster flicks. Last night, Wayne Donovan and I went to the drive-in in Lakeland, Silver Moon Drive-In. We saw Shang-Chi and Free Guy.
Yeah.
Didn't get home till 1:30.
Wow.
Both really good movies. Shang-Chi was fun. A little more, it's a lot of setup because it's an intro to a brand new character, so it's not like the Marvel sequels where you get, you jump right into the action.
Right.
But it's still, the action sequences were really well done. Really cool. The 10 rings look badass, floating around and, doing all sorts of things. Free Guy, a lot of fun. Ryan Reynolds, good movie. Solid performances from him and Taika, Jodie Comer, Joe Keery from Stranger Things is in it as well. Just solid flick all around. If you like video games, I mean, it's basically, I was describing to my wife, she's like, oh, so it's like Wreck-It Ralph. Yes, it's like Wreck-It Ralph but with people in it instead.
Nice.
Just a really, really fun movie. A little Raul Howery in that one as well. We talked about the guy a lot this year.
Like everything else in 2020, 2021.
He gets around a lot.
Easy now.
Yes. So those movies were both really good.
I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I saw. First one being is Titletown, new Netflix show.
How was it? It was good?
Very good. If you think about it, it's like Friday Night Lights, a lot of teen drama and whatnot. Also, it has the same coach from Two-A-Days.
Okay.
If you remember that show on MTV,
yeah.
Rush Probst, where actually Coach comes off as a pretty good guy in this, other than it surrounds around high school football and all the precautions and everything of the 2020 season and states that actually played and whatnot. And of course, you've got your teen drama and romance and all that stuff in there. But what the most compelling thing about that is actually going to be ineligible players and players that were brought in and given special treatments to play on the team.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, they tried to blame Coach Probst for it, but it turns out that the Touchdown Club founder, a gentleman named Michael Nub Nelson, is actually the one who kind of sets the coach up. In my opinion, again, I don't know everything about it, but doesn't seem like a really good dude. He had a physical ailment that he never got to play for the Valdosta Wildcats.
Oh.
So now he's one of those guys that's living vicariously through the high schoolers.
Holds his grudge.
So when the new coach comes in and starts doing things his way, well, we can't really have this. We got a coaching problem. So they don't really say what happens. But, yeah, it was very compelling, very interesting storyline. I watched all 10 episodes in 2.5 days.
Nice.
And that prompted me to start watching Friday Night Lights.
The show?
The show.
Okay.
Obviously, the Billy Bob Thornton movie in 2004 is fantastic.
Yes.
So far, about 4 episodes in, and I dig it. Very dramatic.
Yeah, I haven't finished the show, but I watched a couple seasons. I can't remember how far I got. I've been meaning to go back and watch it, though. It's a good show.
Absolutely. I'm also making my way through Friends, debating whether or not I'm going to start Dexter again, just because November is going to be here very soon.
I know. My wife has yet to watch it, so I want to watch that with her. So,
Dexter, November 7th, the revival.
All right. So I watched Jacob's Wife and The Boys.
Well, how does Jacob feel about this?
He's okay with it.
Right, Boys, you pay the cover.
Boys from County Hell. Those are 2 vampire comedies on Shudder right now. Jacob's Wife stars Barbara Crampton and Larry Fessenden. Also CM Punk, he was in The Girl Upstairs. Another movie I really like. I'm drawing a blank on the name now. Also on Netflix, or that one's on Netflix right now. The Girl on the Third Floor. That's what it's called. Same director, Travis Stevens. It's a really, really good vampire comedy. Bloody, gory, funny. Just really, really lots of fun. Boys from County Hell is an Irish vampire movie where 2 friends, one of them ends up dying, so he thinks, but he ends up actually turning into a vampire, and they realize they've unleashed a vampire, like, coven, or a vampire in general, like an old vampire on this small Irish town.
Michael. Oh, wrong movie, sorry.
Basically. Very funny, very Irish. I had to turn the subtitles on just so I could understand everything. I finally got around to watching City of Lies, which is the Johnny Depp movie that got shelved because the studio went out of business. Then it got shelved because of all the stuff of him in the news in the last couple of years. Him and Forrest Whitaker. It's on Starz. It's City of Lies. It's about police corruption at the Rampart and the murder investigation of Biggie Smalls, Christopher Wallace. If you don't remember his full name, it's Christopher Wallace. It's pretty good. We talked cop movies today. I didn't mention it because I knew I was going to talk about it here. Pretty good cop movie. A little slow at times, but it was well worth my time. I thought Depp and Whitaker, I think, give really good performances. Obviously, both great actors. So catch that on Starz. Then I watched 2 movies that are kind of similar. One's called Psychopath. It's directed by Mickey Keating. So Mickey Keating, he's this newish horror director. He's been around like 8 years right now, I think about. And there's only like one movie he's done that like I really liked, and it was Darling. I've watched all the other movies except for his first one. And I like aspects of them, but they're hard to recommend because there's like greatness in there somewhere, but he tries to do too much in one movie that it ends up kind of holding the rest of the movie down. Psychopath is a movie about a killer played by Larry Fessenden who is executed, and kind of like Fallen with Denzel Washington, he threatens that his essence will remain, and so it leaves his body and it goes to like 7 or 8 different people. They never really tell you how many people, and those people are like fans of his, and they end up becoming serial killers, and some of them even end up meeting unknowns to each other. It's pretty crazy. So it's some crazy visuals, crazy violence and blood and stuff like that. It tries to do too much in like 82 minutes. Like it's not very long. Yeah. So it really is trying to do everything. But it was okay. The other one I watched was Superhost, and that is more like someone described it as a modern day Psycho. It's like a bed and breakfast online type of situation. This couple have their own YouTube channel where they go and they review bed and breakfast places or what's the new thing that you do? Not bed and breakfast.
Airbnb.
And that's how they make their money. Well, they get to this one place, and this girl's a little too cheery, if you will.
All right.
And it turns out there's a reason. She's just kind of nutty. Look up the poster. It's like three different faces of the same character. I like this one a lot. I thought this one was really cool. Sarah Canning from Vampire Diaries is in it. Barbara Crampton also in this one. So I've watched 2 movies within the last week with Barbara Crampton and Larry Fessenden. And then they were in other different movies. It's a really just crazy ass movie. I do recommend Superhost. It is on Shudder if you want to check that out. So the news for this week. Expendables 4 is moving forward with 50 Cent, Megan Fox, and Tony Jaa joining the cast. Stallone, I think it's Stallone, Statham, one of the UFC fighter, the big white guy, I forget what his name was. He was in those movies. And one other person is returning. I can't remember who else.
I like those big white guy movies,
yes.
Let me tell you.
Justin Timberlake joins Benicio del Toro in the Netflix film Reptile. Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson are reteaming for a romantic adventure film over at Apple TV+. Jungle Cruise 2 is officially in the works with The Rock and Emily Blunt both returning. Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel, described as Old Man Leatherface and produced by Fede Alvarez, has been acquired by Netflix. A lot of horror fans hoping they're going to drop that in October. Because it's basically done, apparently. So I'm excited about that for sure.
If they don't, it's kind of a missed opportunity.
Yes, right, exactly. Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights joins Mayor of Kingstown with Jeremy Renner and Diane Wiest. That's the one created by Taylor Sheridan on Paramount TV following Yellowstone. It starts the week after the season 4 of Yellowstone starts. Let's see. Louis Pullman, son of Bill, joins the cast of Salem's Lot. Emily Van Camp is leaving The Residence. She will not appear in the upcoming 5th season. The Rocketeer sequel is in the works with Disney Plus, with David Oyelowo circling the lead role. Ewan McGregor and Ethan Hawke will play half-brothers in Apple Films' Raymond and Ray from writer and director Rodrigo Garcia. Yep. Dennis Rodman is getting a movie based on his life. A 48-hour Vegas movie is in development. So that if you watch The Last Dance, there's that moment where they talk about how Dennis disappeared to Las Vegas for 2 days, and no one knew what was going on.
Was it 2 days? I thought it was like over a week.
No, it was 48 hours.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, it was 48
wow,
hours,
right.
yeah.
He just packed a lot into those 48 hours.
Yes, he did. And they would eventually end up letting him take time off to go back and hang out and stuff. But the first 48 hours, he just kind of went off the grid and no one knew where the hell he was.
Gotcha.
Chris, I believe that's Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the Lego movie guys, are developing that, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I didn't write it down, so I'm not sure. Jabari Banks cast as Fresh Prince in the more dramatic remake of Fresh Prince, which is now coming out sometime next year. New Paranormal Activity movie coming to Paramount Plus in October already. So they're going to debut that this October. Vacation Friends sequel, a movie we just reviewed last week, is in the works. If they had a very strong debut on Hulu, so good news. Yep.
I'm looking forward to that.
Rainn Wilson joins Dark Winds from George R.R. Martin over at AMC. And Alfre Woodard has also joined the cast of Salem's Lot. Release is coming soon. You Season 3 hits Netflix October 15th. Goliath, the 4th and final season, hits Amazon Prime September 24th. Red Notice, which we just got to look at the great big trailer for that with The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot, officially lands on Netflix November 12th. So we will be reviewing that. Look out for that episode. That's this week. Not much. WWE wrestler Daphne Unger, WCW. I think she worked AEW too. She passed away at 46. It looks like it was suicide. It's very sad. That's our show for the week, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. We greatly appreciate it. Have yourself a great week.